Hello and welcome back to another segment of the LPE Author Chat series. I am Kimberly K. LaBoo, CEO and founder of LaBoo Publishing Enterprise. Welcome to the special anthology segment of the LPE Author Chat series, where we are talking to authors of the newly released or soon to be released anthology Set Apart and Chosen: How God Uses Ordinary Women to Do Extraordinary Things. So today, our special guest is Tammy Wylie. Tammy is a committed Jesus follower, married to the finest man on the planet, for whom she waited 40 years for. While she's written skits, Bible studies, and devotionals for her churches, Set Apart and Chosen marks her first try at writing for a wider audience, and she did a fantastic job. She's an award-winning public speaker. Tammy holds a life coaching certificate from the Academy of Modern Applied Psychology, a BA in Indiana Wesleyan. Did I say that right? Wesleyan, and an MA in Math, Ohio State, and the Distinguished Toastmaster DTM designation. A lifelong teacher, Tammy believes learning happens in the classroom or the boardroom, on the park bench, or in a pew. 7 years of classroom teaching and 28 years of Department Defense service has provided her ample teaching, coaching, and mentoring opportunities. Tammy lives in Bowie, Maryland with her favorite hubby. She enjoys listening to and coaching anyone God puts in her path. Tammy has penned the chapter, Walk the Path. God's already gone ahead. So welcome to the LPE Author Chat series. Tammy, I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so very much for hosting.
Thank you for being here. How exciting. So you have written a chapter in our new book, Set Apart and Chosen: God Uses Ordinary Women to Do Extraordinary Things, which I'm super excited about because now we actually have that copy in hand. So I'm super excited about that. So tell me, what was it about the call for this anthology project that prompted you or motivated you to say yes?
So there were really sort of three things that went into me saying yes. The first was, this was an opportunity. And, you don't get opportunities all the time. You don't get opportunities necessarily when you expect them. And so when your call came out, I said, wow, here's an opportunity I haven't had before and I think might be a good one. Yeah. The second thing is, I'm a big fan, and when you read my chapter, you will hear me say this, of let's try. Yeah. Even if we don't know what's going to happen or we don't know how it's going to play out, let's try. So I said, okay, let's try. And the third thing was, you made it so easy. Oh. You laid out exactly what the timeline was, what the specifications were. You had experience. And so sometimes just knowing the right person makes it a lot easier. Yeah. So that's kind of what pushed me over the edge to say, yeah, let's give this a try.
Yeah, that's exciting. Like, I was so super excited when I saw you pop up and say, I'm in. I was like, what? Tammy's going to write for the book. Yeah. And so I just thought that was so phenomenal. So I'm so glad you said yes. And I'm so glad that you trusted me with your story, because you are a first-time author. And so this is like really exciting for both me and for you being that first-time writer, and then me being able to open up an opportunity that allowed you to do that. So that is pretty cool.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. So Walk the Path, God's already gone ahead. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your chapter without giving the whole story away, but a little bit about your chapter, because I thought your title was strong and interesting.
Thank you. When I first started writing the ideas down, I didn't really have sort of a holistic idea of how this was going to play out. And so then after I had sort of read the things that I had written, I could see the theme. I could see that, just like everybody, I think, God works in our lives and we don't always know it, or we don't always know it at the time. And I don't know about you, but I've had an awful lot of experiences where I go, where is God in this? And then a few years later, you go, oh yeah, I see now. I understand what he was doing, or I understand why I was going through that time, so I'd be ready for this time. Yeah. So I just really got the sense that there is a path, and it, you know, it may go different directions for different people. And as I say in the beginning of my chapter, it might be rocky and it might be uphill, and sometimes there's great big potholes in it. But in general, I think that God has a path for each of us. And the reassuring thing is that he already knows what's on that path. He's already gone ahead. So it's safe for us to follow that path.
Yeah, true. And so in your chapter, you talk a lot about sort of like this curious mind that you've had all your life, and that you've been like willing to take those chances, like you said, try, you know, why not try this and that. And so you've had a lot of things along your path, and I love the story that you're telling about your childhood and how that played out for you. So talk a little bit more about some of what you shared about your childhood and what has led you down this path to end you up to be this extraordinary woman that you are today.
Oh, thank you. So I'll just tell you one short little story. When I was in elementary school, I was very much the tomboy, very much, you know, liked to be around the guys, and I had this serious crush on my PE teacher. You know, he was so much fun to be around, and so during lunchtime, he would play football with the boys. So I said, well, I can play football with the boys. And so I did. And, you know, not well received among elementary school boys are elementary girls. And so I remember playing one day, and wham, somebody just knocked me flat on the ground. And when I looked up, there was this boy kind of standing over me, and he said, "Girls don't play football." And I thought, well, okay. And because it hurt, I stopped.
Yeah.
But I also kind of walked away with that, with the question, who gets to say what I can do or what girls can do? And I think just sort of that stuck with me, that, you know, even things I don't know for sure I can, maybe I can try. And sometimes you have great success.
Yeah.
So that was one of the early lessons. I went, oh yeah, he thinks he can tell me.
Yeah,
I think I can do other things.
Yeah, and sometimes, well, a lot of times we stop in our tracks based on what someone else says that we can't do. You know, but I'm of that same mindset that really, if you tell me I can't do something, it really does make me want to just do it even more, just to prove to myself, not so much prove to them, but really prove to myself that I can actually do what it is someone said I couldn't do. So I'm with you on that one. And then one of the other really great stories in your chapter talked about a missionary trip that you took. And you want to share a little bit about that and the train?
Oh, that was terrific. I was in college. I had a minor in Spanish, so I could speak some of the language. And the opportunity came it was a youth trip. So it was college and high school kids with one adult sort of couple as supervisors. And the deal was we were going to go all over Colombia. We were going to speak in churches, and we were going to help with construction and different things. And we just had so many adventures, from arriving at the airport and losing one of our people and missing our flight and ending up in the wrong city. And I mean, we had an experience. But the one in particular that I mentioned in the book, we had arrived at this little village. We had literally paddled in like canoes down the river to this little village. And that's where the train was. And the train was to take us to our next destination. And so there was a group, maybe there were 20 of us, and about 9 or 10 of us were split off. And the man who was in charge of our group had the tickets. But one of our group got sick. And so he went to make arrangements to maybe get her on the train early or get her, you know, a place where she could lay down. And so the rest of us were just sort of standing around. And it's now time to board the train, and we don't have any tickets.
Oh, wow.
And for some reason, the people in my little group looked at me and said, "Hey, Tammy, what should we do?" I don't remember having the sign that says, "Ask me, I know stuff," but that's what they did. And so we thought about, you know, and we weighed what could happen. And, you know, if he's on the train and he has the tickets and we don't get on, then we're stuck here in this village and nobody knows how to reach anybody. If we get on the train and we don't have tickets, what happens when they find out? Do they just throw us off? And so it was a really scary time, but because of the way I am, I said, okay, let's do something. Let's try. And so we got onto the train, and it was so packed. Literally, I was standing on the very last step going up to to the train car. And literally between me and the ground was 6 inches of space, and that's it. There was nothing between me and the outside. And it was night, and we're hanging on to the door handle just, with one hand and the suitcase with the other. And literally, I'm watching, the ground go by just inches below my feet. And it would not take much to get me off that train if the conductor decided, you have no ticket. So as we're driving, and the train is going around curves, I can see through the windows, and I can see the conductor headed my way, and he's collecting tickets. And I don't have a ticket. And I don't have any idea where the person with the tickets might be. And so I was, okay, God, okay, God, okay, God, okay, God. I'm going to fall off this train in the next 5 minutes because I don't have a ticket. And literally, honest to goodness, I kid you not, literally as the conductor reached where I was standing, a hand reached through the crowd holding my ticket, and it was our guide or our director, and he had somehow met the conductor in the middle and handed over my ticket, and I got to stay on the train and all was well. But it was very interesting, and you got the real sense that God was providing.
Yes.
Even in the middle of the dark, in the middle of another country, on a train going 60 miles an hour. So God is there wherever you are.
Yes, yes. I love that story, and you wrote it so beautifully in the book.
Thank you.
And so I was like, oh my gosh. But it's really a testament to your faith. And your chapter, like your whole chapter is really about trusting God. And like you said, just going ahead because he's already there. He's already walked the path. He already knows the path. He already has those things that he has, knows those things he has planned for our lives. So where did that come from for you? Like, where did that next level faith and trust in God come from for you?
I think a lot of it comes from the life experiences as a child. There were things that I think that most children would learn to trust in, like your parents and your environment and your school. And I had a number of those things sort of drop out of my life.
Yeah.
I didn't live with my parents for the good part of my early days. My grandparents, they loved me dearly, but my grandfather passed. And, he was sort of a solid point in my life. And when he was gone, it was like, whoa, the world is not stable and solid.
Wow.
And then we moved quite a bit, and we didn't come from a lot of money, so there were a lot of decisions were made based on money that taught us that you can't really count on money because you don't always have that. So I think a lot of things that people expect to depend on, I didn't have.
Okay.
And so I give my Aunt Lillian all the credit for this. She's since passed on, but every Sunday she would come and get my sister and me and take us to Sunday school. And she made sure that we understood the thing you could count on was God and his word and his promises. And so I think from a very early part of my life, I got exposure to the one thing you can count on.
Okay. Wow. That's incredible. So what was it like for you with everything you just talked about? So you had to like go back and think on these things and revisit certain areas from your life and your past and everything. What was that like for you as a first-time writer to actually sit down and write about all of this?
It was a really hard task to get started. It really was. I remember thinking a few little ideas, but I just, I put off and put off and put off getting started because I just couldn't think about how to do it. And so the only way I could actually make some headway was, it turns out that I can't creatively write on the keyboard. I need to use pen and pencil, So I had my pad of paper and my pen and that kind of stuff. And I just started, I actually started literally this way. I remember blank. And so then I would just write, I remember, playing on the swing sets when I was a little girl. I remember setting fire to things. I remember, experiences. And as I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, then afterwards I could kind of look at it and say, okay, I can see some points here that sort of fit together that make sense in what God was doing and the things that he was building into my life early on. But it was really challenging for me to write. And I have not written before in anything like this level. I've often written for like church, like a women's skit or something like that, or we've done some devotionals and things like that with our church group, but I've never written anything where I was telling my story and that there was, some significant thing I was trying to communicate.
Wow. That's interesting. A lot of people think that you have to write one way. And so just listening to you and your process that, you know, some people can write on a pad of paper. Some people, it does work on a keyboard. Some people have to use a voice recorder. So I'm glad that you found a way that was authentic to you that allowed you to go ahead and pin your story. So that's really important for people to know, is that it doesn't always have to happen one way. So that's awesome. So with the people that are going to read your chapter, what is it that you want them to gain from what you've written?
I'd say there are a couple things I'd like them to gain. One is that we tend to self-edit, I think. I think we have ideas, I think we have a story to tell, and we edit it ourselves so that we don't say or take action on the things that are in our heads. So I would say to somebody reading this chapter, this is not great literature. This is not coming up against Shakespeare, you know, but this is just the story that I've come through. And it's okay to just share the story I've come through. I don't have to be flowery. I don't have to be, you know, the greatest writer in the universe. I have a story, you have a story. Let's just share it with each other and see what we can gain from it.
Yeah,
so
and that's
one
really important. Yeah, that's really important too, because sometimes people will say, well, my story is not as elaborate or you know, whatever as somebody else's story, but you made a very valiant point that each of us has a story, and it's not a comparison, like your story is better than my story, or your story is more tragic than this person's story. Like, we all have our own unique story, and the gift in that is that there's somebody that's tied to us that needs our story, you know. So not somebody else's story, but somebody else can't say it like you can say it to reach the person that it needs to reach. So I'm really glad you pointed that out. That is phenomenal. So do you see yourself now, after having done this, and now you are a writer, soon to be published author in just a couple of days, do you see yourself going forward to write other projects?
I think it's possible. I'm about a year and a month away from retirement eligible.
Nice.
And, I can imagine that once I hit the retirement date, having some more time to think, some more time to sort of process life. And, you know, once you get old, right, you have ideas and you have things that you can perhaps be willing to share with maybe the next generation, or, you know, people that you're mentoring or something like that. And because, just partially because you've lived long enough and you've lived through the situations, people give you a little more credit and believability. And so I think, you know, one of the nice things about being an author is people go, oh, you've written something that somebody else bought and, you know, was interested in. So that gives you a little more, I don't know, validity maybe in sharing your story. So I could see it as a possibility. I like to talk to people, and writing is different from talking.
Yeah.
And so it would, you know, it may happen, and there may be opportunities that come this way now as a result of all the outstanding work you've done to get our book together.
Oh, thank you. And I'm sure it will, because you guys have done such an amazing job with this book that I'm just so excited and so proud for, you know, of each and every one of you who decided to be a part of this book. So why don't you tell people, now that we're talking about the book so much, how they can actually pre-order a copy of the book from you. And I'll put it up again so folks can see. This is the, which way, there we go. This is actually the proof copy. So the book is almost ready to launch. So why don't you give them your web address where they can actually purchase the book from you?
Yes, so the web address is the title of the book, Set Apart and Chosen, Tammy Wylie. And that's spelled W-Y-L-I-E.
And Tammy, T-A-M-M-Y.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. So that's where you guys can go to pick up the copy of the book, pre-order the book. And do you still have gifts left?
I do indeed.
All right. So Tammy had gifts for the first 25 people to pre-order the book from her. And so you would get the autographed copy and whatever that special gift is that she has for you if you order the book. Our pre-orders go up until the 28th. So you have up until the 28th, or until she runs out.
That's right.
of her free gifts. But yeah, so that's how you can order the book from her. So what advice would you give to another first-time author now that you've made it through that first writing experience, that first push at it? What advice would you give to someone else who's thinking about writing a book?
I'm going to say I have sort of three ideas. One is you have to ignore that voice in your head that says you're not good enough.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just a woman thing, but it is definitely a woman thing that we second guess and we compare and we say, I'm not good enough or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you're going to write, you need to set that voice aside and just, my chapter doesn't have to compete. As you said before, this is not a contest. My story doesn't have to top your story. Set that voice aside that says you're not good enough. The second thing I would say is find somebody you trust to do your publishing. You find somebody that you have confidence in, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has the process laid out and understands how to manage a project like that. And the third thing I would say is once you've gotten something down, set it aside for a little while. Let it sit for a while and then come back to it. Because sometimes you're caught up in the ideas that you're generating and they maybe don't flow out as smoothly as you want, or maybe you need to reorder them or something like that. And it's a lot easier to edit later than while you're writing. So if I try to edit while I'm writing, I just cut down the process and lose my creativity. And so we write it and then we walk away.
Yes, and I always tell people, don't try to write your second draft first.
There you go.
Which is exactly what you're saying. I see Paula, one of your viewers here, is saying that she's always wanted to write a book. So now you can encourage Paula, right? Once you do it, you give people the freedom and the courage to go forth and do it themselves through what you're doing. So you have taken that courageous step, and now others will want to know how you did that, and you can share that experience with them. So that is awesome. So our time is winding down. It always does go fast, but I want you to give the website again, just so people know where they can pre-order the copy from you.
Yes, it's the title of the book, Set Apart and Chosen, Tammy Wylie,
TammyWylie.com. Yes. So you guys will be able to go there and pre-order the book from Tammy. So Tammy, I'm again just so elated that you are a part of this book project. I can't wait to see you next month in Maryland. Yes. This long flight home to Maryland to be there for the book launch, and I'm just so excited that you're going to be there. And for any of you that are in that local area of Maryland, March the 24th is our launch, our big launch celebration. It's more than a book celebration. It's going to be a phenomenal evening. Tammy has the flyers on her page, so you can check it out. If you can join us, we still have a few tickets left. So if you want to be in the room to help celebrate Tammy and all the other amazing women that are part of this book project, please take the time to join us. And if you are someone who is thinking about writing a book, please visit us at www.LaBooPublishing.com. Tammy, again, thank you for joining us for this special Anthology Edition segment of the LPE Author Chat series. We'll talk soon.
Thanks very much.
All right. Take care, guys. Be blessed. We'll be back with another interview in just a little while. So stay connected to the page, turn your notifications on, and we'll be back. Take care. Be blessed. Bye-bye.